Hi everyone, I welcome you all to the Azure Developer Communities podcast series. This is Chavi, your podcaster of the day. And with that note, we have Aditya with us. He is currently the founder of Cred Fair. I know, having a founder in the podcast series is amazing every time because he is an entrepreneur. He has 15 years plus of experience, like of industry experience, and he at the same time he's also an angel investor. So it's pretty much amazing to have him today, and let's see how amazing talk we are going to have regarding finance and regarding a lot of stuff. So with that note, I welcome you, sir, in the today's podcast.
Hi, Chavi. Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be a part of this podcast.
I'm so glad to have you. So let's understand how you started your journey because I saw that okay, you had your own stuff earlier, then you thought of founding a company, Cred Fair. So it's a total fintech one. So how it
Right.
started and how it feels like to be now.
Sure. Many entrepreneurs have this thing that I just thought of this idea and I went and took the plunge. Mine was the complete opposite, where I've had this idea for a long time, but I wanted to be fully prepared and then I started. So I come from a family of entrepreneurs. I'm like a third generation finance entrepreneur, and I have this legacy, which can be sometimes very difficult to live up to. But at some point, I spent a decade in finance of my career, and then I I realized that and I started off as an investor. I started off being in the financial markets in asset management companies. But then over time, I realized that as an investor, I cannot see the impact that I'm able to make. But if I became an entrepreneur, and especially in retail financial services, it'll be a lot easier for me to see what impact am I having. Any decisions I'm taking, any value I'm building, is that value actually going to the ultimate beneficiary, who's the customer? And in a country like India, where we have crores of people and almost 500 million people who are underbanked, I was very motivated. How can I use all my knowledge and experience to help people who really need it, as compared to as an investor, I just might be helping a few large banks or large investors do better. Whereas if some of that value is created for the end customer, who's a average Indian or below average Indian, that is a lot more satisfying to me.
That was so good to hear that. And again, like having entrepreneurs in your home is something that is very much great to great for you as well to have a proper experience and know how hectic it is in the starting because ultimately it's not easy to get started
Absolutely,
with these things.
that's right. Yeah,
Yes.
so I started my journey of thinking about wanting to do something maybe around 2014, but then 2018 is when I actually took the plunge and I did, start Credit Fair after getting some experience, getting an MBA as well.
That was really great. And how Cred Fair is currently working in India? What's the response of people for it?
Right. So Credit Fair is a consumer lending fintech. We are helping the average Indian get access to the best education or to the best healthcare, to the best service providers in the home improvement space by providing no cost EMI, like 0% interest loans or easy EMI loans at the point of sale. So let's say if you want to take a course from Upgrad, or you want to take a digital marketing course from some other edtech company, or you want to get a dental procedure done, and usually insurance would not cover that cost. So these are areas where instead of paying cash, or instead of swiping your credit card, you could avail a loan from Credit Fair, and that too at 0%.
That's
So that's how we started, and we've been happy to get a lot of validation, some very good support from the ecosystem. So we have two levels of customers. One, we have the service provider or the merchant, let's say an Upgrad or Tutsi or Asian Paints. So been very fortunate to be trusted by a lot of these large brands. And then we've had the end borrower. So we are having thousands of end borrowers we're serving every month, and looking to scale that by 10x in the next few years.
That's actually great to hear that. And also, like, while talking about the fintech part, so as you mentioned that it's going pretty much well. So, in the starting, when you start a fintech company, so how many things that you have to come across? Because, for example, if I have to do any sort of stuff that is related to finance, so there are a lot of things that I need to be prepared. So in that case, can you just put some light, like what was the like your study background, or like how much things that you have to do before starting your fintech industry experience?
Right. That's a really good question. So I did study. I mean, I have studied engineering and economics in my undergrad. I have got a CFA as a charter holder, and I have finished my MBA from London Business School. So I would, I mean, but I don't. These are things that have really helped me as a person. But I think as a fintech entrepreneur, there are two, three major things you need to know. One is the regulator. So you have to make sure you really understand what is the what does the regulator care about. In our case, the Reserve Bank of India, or in some other fintechs. For some other fintechs, it could be the SEBI or the insurance regulator, IRDAI, right? Secondly, you need to really understand the pulse of the customer. And thirdly, you need to really be able to manage your cash flows, manage your financials, and really not be losing much money at all. Like not like a typical, at least in lending, which the area that I'm in, you can't really burn money like a typical venture funded startup. So so understanding the regulator, the customer, but also the what investors or lenders would look at is critical. Need to be in sync with all these three different stakeholders.
That's actually great to hear that. And also, like, there's this thing that always come to everyone's mind. As I mentioned, that it's difficult to like manage your money and finance thing. So, as you are saying that it gives a like feasibility when it comes to Cred Fair. So, if I ask, like, how do a rich person manage his or her money? So
Sure.
this is the thing that always comes to everyone's mind, because for a middle class person it's so difficult to just work on this ITR and so many stuff. So how it
Right.
looks for the rich person?
Right. So if everyone has their challenges, I think it's hard enough to get rich, but it is equally difficult to remain rich. And that is what, if I the way I understand your question, if someone who has become rich, if they manage their money well, they keep it secure, but also consistently grow it over time. That is also very different and difficult challenge. It's not the so kind of like what got you from zero to 100 is very different, which will take you from 100 to 500. And I think what successful people do well is that they diversify their money. So you don't just put everything in one place. You diversify into multiple baskets, whether it's stocks, real estate, fixed income, or sort of debt instruments. Maybe put some money abroad as well as in India. So those are all the aspects you have to think about. Secondly, knowing what are the limits of your kind of strengths or circle of competence, as Warren Buffett calls it. So let's say even someone like a Gautam Adani, who's a billionaire, and I mean multi billionaire, right? He became rich because he focused on ports, he focused on infrastructure, on industries that he understood really well, and then over time, he diversified into other things. So but then he probably knew that, like, this is something I'm good at, and I'm not suddenly going to get into fintech, or I'm not suddenly going to get into pharmaceuticals just because I'm good at infrastructure. So similarly, like as an individual or as an investor, you need to know what you know well, but you also should become good at understanding what others do well and then backing that person. So yeah, I think those are the two very broad principles which help someone who's rich to kind of remain rich and grow their portfolio.
That was a really great point that you shared, that it's easy to get rich, but it's very difficult to be rich, to stay
Right.
rich. So
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
that's a really great point, and I totally say that it's pretty much true that it's not easy. So in that case, according to you, how one should manage his or her money? Because, like, for example, if I'll say that I'm 18 years of old. I'm just starting my college and everything. So I might be doing some internship or some few stuff. So in that case, how should I start my finance journey? How should I manage it versus the person who is 30 or 40 years of age and working at some MNC?
So there's three things which you kind of optimize for over time. One is learning, second is earning, and third is networking. So it's very difficult to do all three together. So when you're 18, focus on learning and networking. Don't focus on earning, because even if you save like 5,000 rupees, and then making that 5,000 rupees into like 5 lakhs, it's going to take a lot of time and effort. So rather use that money and saving in such a way that you get some lessons out of it, because those lessons will be a lot more valuable than, let's say, the additional 500 rupees you earned on by taking certain risks, or by really trying to go after returns. So that's the way I think about it. Where when you're young, take focus on the learning aspect. Of course, as you've got into your 30s and then you have a family, you have to start planning for your kids' education, for their wedding, etc. So then earning is more important. You all probably already, especially if you're working at an MNC, you have a good salary, you can save a good amount. So then make sure that you're investing the money in a very disciplined and systematic way, so that the money will be available when you really need it, which is for your kids' education, or for your retirement.
That
So
was the best points that you share. The those 3 points were really great. So with
yeah.
that thing, let's talk about the fintech companies, because I have seen that fintech companies are paying so great, but at the same time, like with the same work, the other company, the non-tech fintech the non-fintech company is not paying good. So
Hmm.
what's the major thing? Like, what's the difference of both the companies? Why one is paying good and why one is not paying good?
I think there's two, three things. One is that wherever there's a lot of money flowing by investors, those companies are under pressure to grow, and especially in a services company like fintech, your raw material is actually the type of talent you have. So if I have a lot of money today, I have to deploy it. I have to deploy it on getting very good people, so that those people will help me grow very quickly. So I think some of what you're saying might just be a function of the fintech market being very hot and investors pouring a lot of money into fintech companies, leading to higher salaries at fintech companies as compared to other startups. Uh, but the other reason is also that it is a bit specialized skill. Like I said, we have three stakeholders to keep happy, right? We have our investors, we have our consumer, but we also have the regulator. And balancing everything together is not something easily understood or followed. And there's a lot of depth of domain knowledge that's required, which again, not a lot of people have that depth. So, which is another reason why these jobs might be paying a bit higher than others.
That was great. And also, like how fintech companies is working in India versus in foreign.
So I think it's a matter of the market setup. So I have worked in US, I have worked in UK, and now I've been in India. It's funny actually that the core systems which we might be taking for granted today are in itself only available in India. So the example I'll give you is of UPI. So UPI is instant money transfers like that, and crores of transactions happening daily. is something that is unique to India and maybe China. The UK has something, but not as convenient. The US doesn't have anything like this. Their bank-to-bank transfers can take days. So the good thing about building in India is that we have a lot of solid infrastructure available by the government, available by other regulatory bodies, which helps fintech entrepreneurs to build on top of it. Whereas so the parallel I can draw is that there's a highway built, and once a highway is built, all the land near the highways grows a lot in value. So in fintech in India, the highways have been built by the government, and people like me are trying to acquire and sort of make some value out of the land just around those highways. Whereas I think in some countries like US, actually they have to build the highways, and some fintech companies are trying to build the highway itself, not actually at the next level. So that's I think something unique for fintech in India. On the other end, it is also about about the spending value. So let's say ultimately the amount of money, the per capita income in India is not high, right? In a country like India, so we really need to build for the masses, and we really need to go after the bottom of the pyramid to differentiate ourselves. Because banks in India are actually decent at technology. I mean, I won't say they're amazing, but they're decent. So for fintech, you have to go out after the middle India or bottom levels of India from a consumer perspective. Whereas abroad, there's tons of rich people. Just on average, the population is richer. So fintechs can build for the top, for the affluent, and still be very still have a lot of room to play there. So yeah, I think it's a difference in technology and difference in customer segments when you're building abroad or in India.
That was really great point, and also I guess it's very difficult. Like for example, if I'm having one branch in India, it's very difficult to expand that thing in foreign as well, because the
Yeah,
whole thing is different. The structure, the customers view, and everything is different, right?
absolutely.
Got it. Yeah, that was a really good point. And also, like, there's one question that comes to my mind once, that, what if, right now students are, no one actually gives finance knowledge to anyone right away. So, what if students were taught about finance in their schools? Okay, so how they will be performing in, like, after 10 years, like how they will be growing and how their whole thing would be changed, no matter in which domain they are.
Right. So for me, financial education would be about also, I mean, explaining basic things like, what is a credit score, or how to use your bank account, what is a demat account. So I think those are basic things to be taught. But I would say a lot of behavioral things should be taught, and what I mean by that is, things that we learn as a kid, that like the tortoise versus the hare story, right? The tortoise can overtake the hare if, as long as they're consistent. So taking such stories and applying them to finance, so that people really understand that if you manage your money well, and if you manage your finances well, you might not see the benefit today, but in 10 years you will see that you really will be able to get somewhere, which is the power of compound interest. So yeah, I think if students are taught that, along with the learning and the networking, right, like which I mentioned earlier, they will see that even someone who had a job where the salary was half than their friend, but if they manage their money well, they will have a bigger savings pot at the end of 10 years than the friend who was earning like double what they were at the beginning of their career. So I do think it's going to have a huge impact if it is done well, and if people pay importance to it, and if even parents teach their kids to think independently about money. Because I do see that still, apart from schools not giving exposure to children, even parents are usually like making decisions on behalf of their children. So yeah, I would say like parents and teachers working together, empowering students will really there will be a lot of wonders that can be done by students after 10.
That's so true, and that was a really great point that you shared. And yeah, with that note, I would just say one thing, that yes, the one line that you shared with us, that yes, being rich might be easy, but staying rich is not easy, because you should have the proper finance knowledge, no matter in which domain you are. It is very much important. So with that note, I would say thanks a lot for joining with us today, and it was really great having you. And I'm pretty much sure the listeners would be benefiting a lot with this podcast. And I have dropped all your socials in the description. You guys can just check it out. And if you have any sort of doubt, you can reach out to him over the LinkedIn. And thank you so much for joining in today. And it was really, really great having you.
Thank you, Shavi. Thanks so much for having me.